Another item on the docket for the president is a big shakeup in the way Democrats choose their presidential candidates. For more than 50 years, the road to the nomination has started with the Iowa caucuses and then New Hampshire's first-in-the-nation primary. Well, now President Biden wants to change that, but some Democrats do not like the idea. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Keefe traveled to New Hampshire, where primary voters could soon lose a great deal of clout and prestige.
The Red Arrow Diner in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire is known for its food and is a must-stop for any presidential candidate.
You have to walk through these doors in order to get into that Oval Office.
But co-owner Amanda Wibby worries that might change if Democrats go through with a plan to drop the Granite State as their first primary.
Every 4 years, they descend upon us, and I think a lot of people, customers, would be disappointed that if it was taken from us.
Democrats are set to approve a new calendar Saturday that moves South Carolina's primary to the front, followed by a combo of New Hampshire and Nevada 3 days later. Battlegrounds Georgia and Michigan would also move up, while Iowa is being pushed farther back.
All right, let's take a look at our returns.
This is especially stinging to New Hampshire, which has held the first primary since the 1920s. Bill Clinton didn't win here, and yet
New Hampshire tonight has made Bill Clinton the comeback kid.
16 years later, Hillary Clinton did win the state after tearing up on the campaign trail.
I just don't want to see us fall backwards.
But Joe Biden placed fourth in 2020 and now is arguing change is overdue.
This proposal by President Biden will reflect the strength of America's greatest asset, and that is our diversity.
The argument is New Hampshire, with just over 1 million residents, is too small, rural, and white, not reflective of the changing country. New Hampshire Democratic Party Chairman Ray Buckley strongly disagrees.
We are supportive of diversity across the country. We are not opposed to bringing in other states, but the fact is that New Hampshire is going to be the first.
And New Hampshire Senator Jean Shaheen warns the changes could upset voters in her swing state and cost Democrats votes in November.
In 2000, Al Gore would have been president without Florida if he had won New Hampshire, and he came within just a few thousand votes of winning New Hampshire.
New Hampshire takes the primary so seriously, it even has a state law requiring its primary be the first in the nation. National Democrats want that law dropped, but Republican Governor Chris Sununu, who's also thinking about running for president, says that won't happen.
It's an absolute joke. It's not based on anything to ensure that the voters in America will have a better first filter. It's just based on a personal preference of a candidate.
Back at the Red Arrow, Manchester resident Stu Holzhauser thinks the proposed change is foolish.
I like it being first. I think it's good for the state, and I think it is a good reflection of the country.
But his brother, Bill, visiting from North Carolina, takes a different view.
If the objective is to get a more diverse perspective in that first tranche of states that go, then a different approach might be warranted.
Now, President Biden and Vice President Harris will be here in this Philadelphia hotel later today as the Democratic National Committee is meeting here to make those changes in a vote on Saturday. New Hampshire could still go through with its state law and hold its primary before anyone else, but the DNC may opt to punish the state and withhold its delegates to the 2024 convention. But two other things to keep in mind. This is kind of an academic exercise since we are anticipating that the president's going to run for re-election and not get any real primary opposition. And they can revisit all of this, of course, ahead of campaign 2028. But even I would tell you, Anne-Marie and Janet, it is way too early to be talking about that.
Yeah, it's really early, Ed. But I have to ask you, what else besides a diverse perspective is behind this? And even though you said it's primarily academic, what are the chances of it passing tomorrow?
Oh, it's going to pass because the president wants it. And he's the leader of this party, and he has stacked the committee with allies. It's how both parties are run. When you're the president, you're in charge, and your guys run the show. The argument essentially is, why them? You know, why do they deserve to be first when there are other states that are certainly more reflective of the realities of the country, but also that have far bigger political heft, or should, earlier in the process? There's no need for it to be New Hampshire. Senator Shaheen makes a good point. There are 4 electoral votes on the table there. New Hampshire voters could be so burned by this that they withhold support for the president in November 2024 and he loses by 4 electoral votes, and they can go, see, you shouldn't have done it. We'll see if that's the reason. But there's also just been this long-time belief among people who participate in this process, who run in this process, that this isn't the way it needs to be done or should be done anymore. That going face-to-face to talk to voters and face the music from them in their living rooms is quaint and cute, but not necessarily the way we do or need to elect presidents, given that it's a national contest and it's done mostly in the electronic space. So the president is forcing the issue, and we'll see how it plays out.
So you say it's going to pass because the president wants it to pass, but it could be revisited. I really doubt, I don't know, but I think it's unlikely he's going to run in 2028. Certainly if he wins, he won't, but if he doesn't win, I'm thinking he might not. So there might be sort of a new group of people in charge. So is there a possibility that this is just going to be reversed by the time we see the next election?
It could, but New Hampshire would have to make a really compelling reason why. And it might be as much as they lose the state and they lose those 4 electoral votes that they needed. Otherwise, though, things are stacked against New Hampshire. And I think more than anything, Americans have grown so accustomed to this beginning there, and this is an early signal to them, look, going forward, at least for Democrats, this is going to be different. Republicans, we should point out, they're sticking to the plan. Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, they're going with that. It's Democrats who are making this change, believing it's time.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Good to see you.